we will be enjoying the story of Puranjan, King Puranjan. This story has been narrated by Devarshi Narad in the Bhagwat Katha or Bhagwat Puran. And interestingly, this is by far the only story which is a parable or has been directly mentioned to be parable. That is, the story is imaginary, but it has been told for a totally different purpose or reason, which we will come to know at the end of the story. So let us go ahead with the story of King Puranjan. Puranjan and Avigyat were two friends, and they used to do all things together. They used to wander from place to place, enjoy the beauty of nature, and were always remaining together. While traveling, one day they came to a very beautiful palace in a very beautiful city. The palace had 9 doors, and just as they were looking around, some procession seemed to be coming out of the palace. And Puranjan said to Avigyat, "Let me go and see what that procession is about. I will come back in some time." Avigyat said, "Fine." And this was the first time that Puranjan and Avigyat were separated. So Puranjan went towards the palace, and what he saw was very interesting. A very beautiful lady, decked in most beautiful jewelry and clothes, was coming out holding the umbrella, a 5-headed snake. It had 11, she had 11 security guards or watchmen or bodyguards, and she had a number of people in the procession. The people were dancing, enjoying themselves. Some of them were lamenting, some of them were wishing, and so on. It was a very merry atmosphere. Puranjan got attracted to the lady at first glance, and she too was attracted to him. And he proposed. It was an instant match, and they became husband and wife. They came back to the palace and started enjoying their life. By this time, Avigyat was forgotten totally. Puranjan had totally forgotten about Avigyat, and his life continued. What he also noticed once inside the palace, that there were 4 permanent guests in the palace, and their names were Durbagai, Prajvara, Bhayam, and Kalan. And they never used to go out of the palace, but remained in various rooms of the palace, and slowly and steadily were doing the work of destroying the palace. But for some reason they could not be pushed out of the palace. Puranjan put up with them. The life went by, and at one time the queen was affected by some disease and she died. Puranjan was totally heartbroken. He cried and cried and cried, and calling out the name of queen, he too died. The next birth, he was born as a woman, and in that birth he was born in a very rich family. They look after him or her now in a very good form, very good way, got her educated and got her married at the right age. And she spent the next number of years with her husband and the children that came by. One day, the husband died, and the wife, now Puranjini, was heartbroken. She cried and cried and cried in the crematorium, and she saw somebody approaching her. And that person, somehow she was attracted to him, but in a spiritual way. She asked him who he was and what was he doing there. He said, "This is the same question I want to ask you. Who are you and what are you doing here?" The story ends here. It continues in a different form, but for this episode the story ends here. Puranjini was not able to answer this question, who she was and what was she doing there. And the person who had come in, he answered the question for her. He said, "Remember, you are Puranjan and I am Avigyat. You went to the palace and you forgot me. And now I have come back to make you understand who you really are." And now we come to the most interesting part of the story. Now look at the comparisons given or the parables given. The queen is the buddhi or intelligence. Puranjan is we ourselves. In fact, if you shift the words a little, it is Punarjanma. And the Punarjanma happens in the form that we keep thinking at the end of our life. So the Puranjan kept on thinking of his queen at the end of his life, so he was born as a woman in the next birth. And this cycle of life and death would have continued ad infinitum had Avigyat not come in between. Avigyat is God, or the sense of God, the power of God, the natural principle, whatever you may call, that makes us aware of our real form or of our reality. Going back further, what is the umbrella of red five-headed snake? This is the five-headed snake are also concerned with our body and mind. How? That will come a little later. What is the nine-door palace? The nine-door palace is the body itself. And what are these nine doors? The nine doors are consisting of two eyes, two ears, one mouth, two nostrils, one anus, one genital. And remember the guest and remember the names. Durbagai, which is aging. Prajvara, which is fever or temperature. Bhayan is various types of fears. And Kalan is death. All these are connected to each other and they keep on destroying the body. Remember those people who are rejoicing in the procession? The Queen Puranjivi is the Buddhi, and the people in the procession are the various enjoyments that we have, which we have through our body. So far as these enjoyments as well as the four enemies are under control, we are in control, or they are in the control of mind. The moment they go awry, the body starts losing its charm. And doesn't matter what, at some point of time the body has to go. But what we need to remember is our connection with Avigyat. The Puranjan Avigyat connection has to be remembered at all times, so that we make use of our buddhi in a proper manner and in succession use the body for the proper way. And on this parable are based a number of lessons and a number of other things that continue. But herein under is given a very beautiful method of ancient wisdom. Just now we have talked about the 9 doors, 11 bodyguards, who are the Karmendriya, Jnanendriya and the mind. We have talked about 4 problems of the body. We have talked about the body. We have discussed biology, physics, science or spiritual realm, and in such a way that it is very easy to narrate and easy to digest. And this same method can be utilized for studying a number of other subjects. That is the beauty of ancient wisdom as narrated by Devarshi Narad, who by far was one of the best teachers that we have in the Itihas. Think about it. Please write your comments and questions, which we will answer through these episodes. Namaskar.